All right, we're live. We're live. We're live. Oh, here we go. Lady Wine. Already. Woo Shell. Okay, here we go. Welcome back to our channels, Warriors. We are still growing today. Wow, another banger. Got a good interview for you guys. I've watched this guy's channel for a minute now. I like his get down. I like the information he puts down. So I have none other today than Rob from Mislead Loyalty. What up, dude?
Hey, muy buenas noches, Héctor.
Buenas noches,
¿Cómo has
bro.
estado?
Good, and you?
Mm, Good, good. Things could be better, but I'm not complaining at all.
You sound better, man. Like I said, I always listen to see how you're doing, dude.
Gracias. Yeah, it's just hard to keep up with the doctors here, but, I'm still here, so that's what counts.
Bro, it's hard to keep up with the doctors here, man. It's like they don't know shit.
Yeah, exactly.
So I understand currently you're not in the United States, but when you began this lifestyle, were you in the United States?
Yes, I'm born in the Bay Area,
Okay.
and basically, my whole term started in 1996, at least CDC wise.
Yeah.
And from there, I did 23 years, 11 months. And then, I went to the feds under Noki Dog. You know how they work, and basically try to beat them to the punch. But I ended up getting out on AC, and by that time, I had already gotten, you could say, in certain things to come down to Mexico and fall in line.
You did 23 years with CDC?
Yeah, I was see. Well, 2015 is when I went to the feds.
Okay. Okay. Man, you dodged the
Yeah,
bullet, man, because 2015 is when everything kind of went to shit within the department.
yeah, I heard. I was over there in the feds hearing.
Yeah. Um, and when did you touch down? What year? 1996
Where at? Over there in the
in the
States?
state.
I was born over there, Santa Rosa, California.
No, what year did you get into CDCR?
Oh, 97.
Oh shit, 97, right? Now, were you part of a street gang
Yeah,
right there in the Bay Area?
yeah, yeah. I belong to the neighborhood that's called PSCs. It's Sureños neighborhood.
Were you savvy and laced up on the game during that period of time?
Nah, it was at this time. It was completely different. I'm from the first generation in my town, so it was basically we were learning as we were going. We started in '89, and right before I got arrested, Mosca and his brother-in-law Güero were the ones trying to, get in, but they weren't in completely. At the end of the day, it was like we were like, hell no,
Yeah.
you are who you are, but you can't come in my neighborhood and tell me. But we weren't. I mean, I knew because I have a lot of family down south, but we really weren't hip to that as much as you see it now.
Whoa. All right, we're gonna kick this off. So you guys were first generation up in that area, and
Um,
you had at the time a member attempting to gain control or a foothold.
yes, sir. The thing is, Güero from Sanford,
Yeah.
he actually had a prima. He had a prima in town. So that fool, well, at that time, supposedly he was trying to get away, from the
Yeah.
valley and trying to find some peace. And basically, he was on the run, though. He had some skeletons in his closet, so he went up north and he tried to hide out and he tried to play the part in town, collecting rent and stuff like that. Which he succeeded.
He did succeed.
Yes, sir, because eventually everybody started falling in line, and well, Cause at least my neighborhood, a lot of us started going into the system, and a lot of like LP nearby, and that's where they would eventually move to a little town called Petaluma next door,
Okay.
and it's where up until the point Mosca passed on, he had a stronghold right there.
So this time in particular is very unique, right? It's very unique because of the 90s three strikes law, all the prisons being built, the different generation of the organization we're talking about.
Yeah.
What I was going to say was, did you guys understand the system? Meaning, hey, one day you will be in prison, right? One day you will have to follow rules.
Oh yeah, we understood it. I come from a family out here in Culiacan that, since as far as I can remember, they've been doing their thing
Okay.
but when it came to moving Holly.
Yeah.
So kind of goes without saying. Since a child, I learned that it was death or prison. So it kind of carried on. But we knew we were going to prison. To be sincere, when I was out there, I was expecting to go before prison. The way we
Right.
just outnumbered like that bad. But yeah, I had another homeboy right before me. He went in. He actually went into the system '96.
Okay.
So we were, little by little again, we started blending in. But we're trying to keep it in prison. I
What
was
was
at
your
fault, to
term?
be sincere.
What was your term that was sentenced to you?
I was sentenced to double life.
God damn, dude.
Yeah, I was a lifer. When I first got sentenced as a kid, I got sentenced to double life for double murder and attempted murder and discharge our firearm in city limits. And basically, where I got caught, it was between a gas station and the freeway.
How old were you?
At the time, I was 17.
God damn, dude.
Yeah,
A long time ago,
definitely.
Where'd you touch down, dude? What prison? Where you first landed after reception?
Quilmas,
Where?
San Quentin.
San Quentin?
Quilmas, San Quentin.
Okay.
Yeah,
I've
that's
never
our
heard it called
reception
that.
center.
Did you stay there or did you go somewhere else?
No, I stood there for 8 months in reception.
Did you keep your nose clean there or did you get sent to the hole or anything?
Oh no, no, I had already gone to YA, so I
Oh,
had that
okay.
little YA mentality.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had that mentality. I came in as, a young buck going in. My neighborhood wasn't really known, so I have nothing to lose. My mentality was I gotta put my neighborhood in the correct gear. So, and the way I knew how to do that, every time they opened that door, it was boogie time.
Violence. Violence.
Yeah, yeah.
Would you say from your experience, and particularly in that time, that violence dominates in prison?
Yeah, yeah, it was. I was doing everything wrong. I'll be sincere with you. I got blessed. You could say that because at the time my celly was an older cat from Riverside, right? And he was basically under. He had slipped through CEC because he was sitting up in Pelican Bay since it opened,
Yeah.
and his case was from back in the '60s. So he had all this paperwork. So every time I did something, he would just shake his head at me. And up until the point where I did something on the fifth tier and I came back and he told me like, "Hey, fool, sit down." And at first, I was like, "Why? What's up?" I had
Yeah.
that stupid mentality. He pulled out his paperwork and He was a señor, you know.
He was?
Yeah, he was a señor that had been down since the 60s, and he was gonna parole to Salinas. That's why they brought him close to San Quentin to parole.
Was that your first time you found that out?
Yeah, by that time I already had knowledge, and in county I got more laced up. You know that
Yeah,
basically it was definitely I was gonna get my jugular cut if I went against them the way things were on the streets.
right.
So at that time I literally just bucked down and just started receiving clecha from them. You know.
Looking back in hindsight, would you say that the clecha he gave you was reasonable and needed?
Oh man, I did not meet another person like Raul Corona, you know, from Riverside. You know, for a lot of the beginning years, I was known as Raul Corona's kid, you know, because he, after he parole, he still remained with his arm around me to say, you know, every time
Yeah,
I had something come up, I always had that option to reach out to him and have him guide me, you know, or him speak out for me.
yeah.
Like I said, it was a blessing, or I don't know what to call it that, you know.
How common were race riots during that time we're talking about right now?
It was a time of war when it came to us and norteños, right?
Yeah,
Especially up north, and but it was on site mostly. You know, from there I went to Tracy, and I didn't even get over it, right?
yeah.
And I caught. Well, we got caught for jumping on a norteño because they didn't find the fierro, but they gave us a 128D, I believe, and transfer us to Solano.
Okay.
And there, right there, was basically got out. Within the next day, I got out. It was again back to the hole. Sent us to the other three pending transfer, and in reds we took off. And
What
then
prison? What?
they
Go
sent
ahead.
us to they sent us from there. We were waiting on Ironwood, but they sent us to Vacaville pending transfer.
Yeah.
And then right there in Ironwood, it was just a big old mess. You know, we got our butts whoops again.
What year did you hit Ironwood?
I got to Ironwood in 2000. The end of 99, 2000 is when I was in Ironwood.
Prior to that, had you done any shoe time up in the Bay at that point?
No, no, no. It was mostly a whole time.
Did you ever do shoe in the Bay?
Oh yeah, I ended up my time in the Bay. I did from the end of 2004 to 2015 in the Bay.
All right. The reason I say that is because I've watched your shit, dude, for a long time. And you know how people can read people? I'm like, oh, this dude is definitely, laced up. Definitely was a somebody, meaning, the ropes. By far, dude.
Yeah, I was in all
Ironwood,
three shoes.
all three shoes? We'll get there.
Okay.
Ironwood, what'd you think, man? Hot as fuck? Blythe? Level
Oh,
three, level 4?
yeah, it was a level 4 at
Yeah.
that time. It was just you had level 4 points. It was Ironwood was a mess at this time, you know, because they had level 4s, level 3s up in the gym, and it was complete mess, you know.
Real quick, when you say it was a complete mess, give me your experience of a complete mess from your guys's the inmate side. Was there
Oh,
disorganization?
well, oh yeah. For example, what was 3 block, 4 block? Everybody in there was mostly a lifer or had level 4 points, right? And then 1 and 2 block were level 3, but they were like right at the borderline, you know.
Yeah.
And then the the vatos in the gym, they were literally level threes.
Right.
And then you had 5 block that was the whole. So they had a whole mix in the yard, right?
From your former experience and knowing what you know about the game, does that make the game difficult, having everything all fucked up and mixed?
It did, cause it's a down south institution,
Yeah.
and at the time they were just weenies running the yard, right? They didn't
Yeah.
know what they were doing, and there was a lot of people hiding out there. So when I got there, well, there were some issues that happened with Lalo from Lomas,
Okay.
the señor up in Vacaville, and Vato from Lomas that was there. And so when I got there, I was already in touch with Terco, through Raul. So I got there, and I was given the responsibility at the yard, and man, about half the yard took off.
What'd you say about taking off?
They took off, literally. They locked it up.
Half the yard?
About half the yard from all four threes, because I restarted from ground one,
Okay.
I
So
don't
you,
care how long you've been here.
right,
I, I want papitos.
right.
Everyone papitos. And not only your 120 AG, I want your court transcripts. And a lot of them had skeletons in the closet.
Okay. Was it hard for you to get in touch with a member at the Bay all the way in Ironwood at this time?
Oh, yeah. You had to go through the motions.
What were the
At this
motions?
moment, the only time, the motions was basically you were in touch with a senora
Okay.
or some type of. And then from there, she took the proper steps to reach the member in the Bay.
Yeah.
You didn't see this friendly. I got to guide you hold you by the hand to run a jardín.
They pretty much gave you,
Basically, if you were a whiner,
yeah.
yeah,
They
yeah.
let you they let
Basically,
you handle your
if you were
business.
that individual, yeah. Basically, if you were that individual that was going to call him just because a cat on the yard did something and be constantly like that, then you were just annoying. You were just a
Right.
weight. You had to bounce. You had to know how to resolve problems on the spot.
Right.
Because unless you picked up a good shoe term, you weren't going to be up there literally in contact with them.
Was a MESA system in place at this point?
Nah, it was still a llavero system. Yeah, it was supposed to be, but it wasn't. You set your own bloqueros and stuff.
So was there just one llavero for the yard?
Yeah, yeah, and you set your own bloqueros. I mean, if you were smart, you put bloqueros that were somehow had an avenue to a pili.
Right. Now,
Yeah.
could one yard belong to more than one brother there during that time?
Nah,
No, that's not the
nah.
way it was working.
I mean, no, there could be a vato that was already coughing up to a pili, right?
Yeah.
So he was allowed to go ahead and get his, and you left him alone. But at the same time, he would out of respect send the pili that had the jardín.
Yeah. So fast
Yeah,
forward a
so
little
you
bit.
did allow him to.
What ends up happening? Where do you go after Ironwood?
From Ironwood, I went to SHU.
Why?
Well, I'm not gonna put that vato from Artesia. I had a nephew on there, and that fool came out speaking that he had blessings to the yard.
Yeah.
And I had to basically say like, you don't have the yard, but you know, I'm not minimizing your palabra, but let me go ahead and run this, which I did, to Terco, Terco said, "Chad, let's hit him." So I didn't want to bring no other camarada into it, cause so I took care of it and got caught.
Did this happen on the yard?
Yeah, this happened on the yard right there on A yard.
And then you got your SHU term to Tehachapi.
Yeah. Then I caught a stabbing in the hole for Sapo, and also we're back there, the two carnales, and I caught a pegada back there in a cell extraction. I went off to Tehachapi.
Were the brothers back in the ad seg at that time?
Yes.
What were they doing there?
Sapo, I don't know if Sapo was going out to court. He was coming from the feds. And also from Hammond, he was sleeping. He was a sleeper, right?
Yeah.
But at that time, he had already been slammed. He was waiting to go up to the bay.
You said you caught a stabbing. Did you during an extraction? Was numerous people boarding up, or you just had boarded up?
Well, the stabbing was beforehand, and then the boarding up was yeah, it was afterwards, and it was everybody.
What was the reason for everybody boarding up?
Well, except there was a few reasons. The main reason was because there was a lot of camaradas coming from different yards, and there was a lot of COs that they were being disrespectful. So there was a loose right on the Judas, and they were messing with the camaradas in the hole. So yeah, I just decided to go ahead and call it, and it was us. And after us, then the Gavachos boarded up.
Yeah. Damn,
Yeah.
dude. You were the Madroso back then. So then, now you landed Tehachapi.
hmm
Was there any members there?
Yeah, I landed to Tehachapi. Oh yeah, I landed in 7 block B yard, and it was a validated block. I wasn't valid. There was a little bunch of us that, to some sense, knew. CDC had me more so because I was in touch with Raul, right?
Okay.
But they stuck me under, and above me was Toro from Cuca, and Creeper from Ontario, and then I had Pili from Verdugo, White Fence next door. There was about 6, 7 Pilis on the same building or section, excuse me.
From this time, was IGI already hitting you up? Were cops hitting you up? Like, hey, we know who you're in touch with. Or they were not getting at you like that?
They weren't, but I knew they were.
So you knew they were looking into
I
you?
knew they were. That's why I was real. I was careful, I tried to do 3 ways in every aspect.
Yeah.
Had a camarada do the 3 ways, like, just different avenues.
Right.
Yeah,
Did you get more knowledge?
but
Did you get more laced up at Tehachapi SHU? I mean, was it always a progressive learning stage for you?
yeah. I mean, again, I was thankful to Raul. He gave me a lot of clecha. For example, he shouldn't have, but he did. Like, he told me exactly what pilis to support, what pilis to just be like, hey, aquí estoy, vámonos, and just
Yeah.
respect, because they had ways to them. But yeah, I would sort of.
Man, that's very interesting because that information is valuable. Reason being is, and I'm sure you know because you do, everybody's personality is different. Everybody's style is different.
Every single one. Every single one. The only thing that don't change is that power hunger trip, right?
Yeah.
But other than that, that's why I don't know if you've seen in my messages. The one thing I tell everybody: don't ever go into a yarda thinking that what you do in that yarda is going to mean anything on the next yarda.
Facts.
Because that feeling on the next yarda don't give not 1 cent what that other individual wants, even though they're
Facts.
carnales.
Yeah. And that's getting
Yeah.
into the more intricate things. That's why I'm kind of glad we're having this conversation. Of course, right now I'm only talking about things in the past. Definitely ain't going to probably dive too much further into that. But that's why I'm saying, man, I got to kind of choose, pick, and think about the questions that I ask you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah, no, for sure, bro. So during this time, did you realize, dude, you have fucking double life. You are you are a camarada. That's a fact. Did you realize how dangerous and deadly the game was that you were involved in?
Oh, on a daily, for those that say, hey, so yes to yourself, then you don't know the game. You weren't in touch with nobody. Because at all times, every time you're there saying dispuesto, I'm your support. And literally, you get involved with that pili. When you get to the next yard, that pili might not like you and say, cut his jugular.
Right.
So you always had your butt on your throat, not knowing if that pili was going to send a hit on you. It was part of the program.
What is priority? Okay. Going back into your head during that period of time, surrounded by heavy hitters, I mean, sharks, what is a priority to maintain, stay out the way, not step on anybody's toes, make money for them? What was your end goal?
At this time in the shoes, it was put yourself in this position, period.
Okay.
Not not associate yourself and be a tío's sobrino, you
Yeah.
know, and just be directly under one individual. Because you see it time and time again, once one individual falls and you're loyal to him, you're taking the fall with him, period.
Facts.
But if you're under the cause as a general,
Okay.
then you have a lot of people speaking for you.
That's smart. That's
Yeah.
smart, dude. So during that time, Tehachapi SHU, you're surrounded by brothers. Did they seem like they were doing all right? And by all right, I mean for prison atmosphere. I mean, were they making money? Were they content?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, they were making feria. Even though there was a lot of power struggles, right, per se,
Yeah,
you didn't see what they were doing now. What you see them doing now, they weren't doing it back then, to that extent.
correct.
Because they needed the camaradas.
Ooh, dude, what you're saying is right on point, bro. Because it changed. And I told you it changed. I told you in 2015, that's when things got wild.
Yeah.
Okay, also, they weren't letting lifers go home back then. What was it like being around a
No.
bunch of what was it like being around a bunch of fucking torpedoes, including yourself, that didn't give a fuck about anything?
To be sincere, I didn't even pay attention to it. It was what it was.
Did you have hope?
It was, no, I never even thought about it. I'll be honest with you. It was never on my mind to go home. I was already at peace with where it was.
What did you view your death in prison to look like? How did you foresee it, knowing and thinking you were going to die in prison?
Uh, I never thought that far out. I'll be honest with you. You know, it was always do something, but dying in prison, it was it was what it was since I was a child. You know, you were just it was just part of.
But that's crazy though, man, because for me, that sounds fucking terrifying, dude. Horrifying. I'm going to fucking die in prison.
Mhm. Yeah, I I'll be honest with you. You in these times, at least when I was doing time, I never thought about it. You know, it was just concentrate on what it is, on the program, and doing things correct, or they're gonna cut your jugular. And
Did you have aspirations to make it to the top?
me personally, no, no. I was part of the program. I knew what I had to be in, but I'm from the Bay Area, so we grew up being sureños, and I wanted to maintain in that, right?
Yeah. Did you see a bunch of dudes, camaradas, llaveros, make mistakes, make deadly fucking mistakes?
On a daily, on a daily, they were, you know, and sometimes it wasn't even their mistake, but it was an everyday thing. You know, somebody had to get whacked, removed, because he did something. You know, and at the end of the day, it was exactly that. You know, lambe huevos
Correct.
that messed up, right?
Back then, talking about hitting people. If you were you able to refuse? You told a youngster, "Hey man, I need you to do this." Were they able to say no?
Oh, they're always able to say no. You know, it's not going to be looked at.
Yeah.
It's not going to be looked at wisely, and at the end of the line, in about a month or two, you're going to get your butt,
Yeah.
caved in. But it would have to depend on who's running the yard, right?
Yeah.
Because again, there was a lot more respect for homies, for
Right.
camaradas. Unless you had a camarada that was a tecato on the yard, then he didn't care. He was going to maintain his little tecato buddies on the yard and put someone that didn't have the right knowledge to do things.
Did you encounter, up until this point, Tehachapi SHU and prior, did you encounter power struggles on any of the facilities that you were on?
Almost on every one.
No way, dude.
Yeah, almost on every one I was in, it was, you know, for example, Ironwood, it was Terco's yard, but Terco was up in war with Artie, Boxer, so it was constant thing, somebody getting there and that wanted to take the yard.
I know there's no rank structure, right? I know that. But are certain
Mm-mm.
brothers more influential than others?
In their head, yeah,
But
in their
I'm
head,
talking
there's a lot
about
of brothers that,
but I'm talking about from the soldados' point of view.
yeah, it would have to depend on his reach,
Yeah.
how many people are under him, where he has his presence at. Well, at
Oh,
this time, where his presence at on the streets, and of course, it is like that in everything, I believe.
Machiavelli the Prince. Are a lot of these
Mm.
individuals that we're speaking about, are they very privy to the way things move and maneuver?
No, not all of them. Not all of them. There's certain cats that they have it well set on them, and then there's certain cats just sitting there living off the fame. Fame, excuse me.
I watched your episode yesterday about Tigre.
Mm,
Was he more of a brute force muscle type of guy?
yeah, yeah. A lot of Pilis they won't say it, but they fear Tigre. I mean, I went out from Tehachapi to Palmas supposedly as a court witness, but it was more so to you know pass papalotes, and I seen it firsthand. They stayed off his way.
Wow. From what I
Yeah,
gather,
the only one that was doing his thing and then
go ahead.
was Frank B. Frank B didn't care. He was doing his thing.
Okay.
Whether Stigers like him or not.
Yeah. Did Tigre attempt to start a whole new organization?
Oh yeah, yeah. Not a start. He he wanted to take out dead weight when it came to them.
Yeah.
What we're talking about exactly them individuals that were just sitting back there receiving, but didn't have that reach on the streets to bring something to the mesa.
Okay. But that got him in some trouble.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. That would eventually be what they ended up putting him on the shelf.
You ever heard of the RCGP, Restrictive Custody General Population?
I haven't. Is that like
So,
a PCR?
no, it's pretty much for somebody like that says, no, I'm still good,
Mm.
but everybody knows, their life is probably going to be in danger. So they land on one of those yards. Restrictive Custody General
Oh,
Population.
okay, okay. It's kind of what they had in Corcoran.
Was it?
It's kind of like what they had in Corcoran too.
So Turi and Tigre actually got in a fight at RCGP in
Yeah,
2018
it's,
ish.
I I believe that's why they allowed Turi to come back.
Okay.
Yeah, it's because he tried to rush Tigre, right? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, they got into a physical confrontation.
Yeah, and Tigre turned around on him and whooped his butt.
I didn't read the details of the report. I just saw like pictures and whatnot. After Tehachapi, where do you go?
From Tehachapi, I went to Corcoran. Well, they shot me to the 180, and a lot of people talk about ratas, and even though it was a GP, man, they're constantly telling the COs everything that's happening on the yard.
On the
And then
Tehachapi
from there, I
180?
came back. Yeah, in the 180 right there on B yard. But it was by that time is when some things happened with Toto from Kuka, and they flew him out to Pelican Bay,
They flew
and
who out?
she Toto from Cucamonga.
Like in a airplane or a helicopter?
Yeah, yeah. It was some dumb stuff. It was basically a mistake. You see, the COs forgot all the plates on the top tier. So, us, we ended up melting them all, and it was mandatory. Every cell had two fierros. But
Okay.
when it was yard time, two camaradas, they wanted to go out to yard, so they tried to fish all the fierros from one cell to another,
Okay.
and they got caught. So they basically put him on shit list. And then on showers, I tried to slide a razor for him to hit his head, shave.
Yeah.
And after that, they flew him out. They said they played off trying to say he wanted to move on COs, which was his lies.
You guys melted on the
And
trays? Were they the thinner trays?
yeah, the plastic ones,
Yeah.
correct. The thinner ones, not them big fat ones, you know?
Yeah. Fuck. And everybody had
Yeah.
2 pieces in the cell?
More than that, the ones that got caught were the extra ones. The ones that got caught were the extra ones that we were going to shoot to different, you know? There was already two per cell. And the ones the
Fuck,
homies
dude.
were holding were the ones that didn't have a pad yet.
Okay. Jesus Christ, dude. Now, what about wheelas at this time? There are a lot of wheelas moving around?
Oh, yeah. On the daily. Yeah. And at this time, it was Tio Chino. Chino from Maravilla. He was in 5 block. So, kind of like what we were talking about, right? There was Pilis already there.
Yeah.
But when they moved Toro, they moved Chino in the pot. And Chino took over everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Break it down
He
for
took over
me.
everything.
Break it down for me. A little tiny ass wheela from Ironwood. What if you got to get something from there to the bay? Is it possible physically to get the same exact kite, or do you have to rewrite it or do 3-ways or whatever?
Normally, the smart thing is rewrite it 3 times and send it out 3 different ways.
Okay.
One of them has to touch down, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it was possible. It was just a time lapse, right? You had to wait on it.
But there had to be certain.
That's why they used to pull us out the car.
Go ahead.
You know, that's why we would get pulled out to court, for example, to Palmas, to different spots, because we were going to run across a camarada there that was pulled out from Pelican Bay.
Okay.
So, you know, we get him the wheeler and he's going to take it back.
Very interesting. Very interesting, man. The thing is, bro, that's the past. That's like history, dude. Because people have cell phones now.
Yeah, I heard. Yeah, I heard back then, and phew, there was none of that.
What about? I'll skip that question. Right. After Tehachapi, you went 180. Then you went Corcoran. SHU?
Yeah, then from there, they shot me to Corcoran, yeah.
Let me ask you this,
Yeah.
Rob.
And,
When you're meeting people face to face for the first time, do you already know who they are? Because if you heard of them, or you read about them, or you interacted with them somehow?
well, a lot of them, you know, before they even touched down to the SHU, from a different SHU, the SEALs already put up the carnalas there on game, you know, so we were waiting on them. So we knew who they were off the top.
Okay.
It ain't what it is now, you know. Now you have all these youngsters that still don't know how to wipe right, that was walking amongst them, you know.
Correct.
You don't know half of these individuals. You literally have to be in the SHU to get to know them or even hear of their presence, you know.
Now, the term camarada, I know exactly what it is, and so do you. But sometimes I hear on YouTube, like, man, you got these youngsters thinking they're camaradas, but they're not that.
They're not. And I don't even think they're sureños yet. You know, a lot of these
Shit.
individuals, you know. And that's not
Wow.
to put down nobody. It's just being real, you know.
No,
Like I
I hear
said, they
you.
think they're camaradas because they're walking on the same yard as a pili, but never done anything, you know.
You know what's a trip, dude? It's just not that world. It's also law enforcement and the military. It's almost like the whole world changed, dude.
Yeah, yeah. I hear now, and it's like I can't even imagine it being like that when I was there.
I saw the change. I saw the change.
Yeah.
When you're in the SHU, back in the day, man, Tehachapi, Corcoran, is your goal still the same? Make money? Or are you doing, you have a different goal while you're slam?
That's the main goal always. You know, if you can't provide to the table when it came to Holly wise, Fadia wise, then you're just right there taking space. So while you're back there, like you were mentioning, they might say, "Oh, the camarada." In reality, you leave that, and the pili right away is gonna start. You know, that was a weenie. It's just
When you were in the
yeah.
hole, when you were in the hole, did you have to request for individuals to check in the back?
Oh, that was constantly done. You send for people, and if they didn't report, then you went out there, or you sent people to bring them back.
I was just about to ask you to walk me through that process, right? Because there's no more AdSeg, bro. There's no more fucking AdSeg in CDC. What would be the process of what a dude might need to go check in real quick or go to the back?
It depends. For example, I'll give you an example. To actually be right, when Chino came and took over, it was he was more on the trip that he wasn't receiving Hale. There was a pipeline, right,
Yeah.
from the library, and the cat that had the 180 there was Güero from Venice. He was an older vato, and he had gotten out of the SHU from Pelican Bay on that inactive, that 5 year inactive stuff. There was a whole bunch of them, and basically I hit that 180, and I hit that 180 with the mortars.
Yeah.
Basically, get out there and tell Güero that he's to push aside and not run through him and bring him back to the hole. So basically, he had a choice, or for example, Pili could tell you like that fool needs to come back and report,
Yeah.
and it was harder because you literally had to pick up a pedazo and do something good to end up in the SHU, right?
Right. For an individual's presence, right? Let's say I'm a sureño and I have to report. Is that always a bad thing? Or do people report for good things?
No, I mean you could report out of respect, right? For example, you could be when I was in Iron when Sapo first got there.
Yeah.
You know, I reported. I had the yard, but I still reported.
Okay.
And it was basically tell another camarada, hey, let's pack up and let's go over here and just let's put some cachetadas to go back to the hole for a day or two.
Yeah.
Pay our respects because he's here, and that's it.
That's a trip, dude.
So there was a big difference. It's a big difference when they were just in the hole, but when you had to report all the way back to the SHU.
Yeah.
It was a mission to touch down.
What year were you in the Corcoran SHU?
Corcoran, I got there 2002, all the way to the end of 2004.
They had already done the whole crazy bullshit with the fights, the bets, the FBI.
Oh yeah, yeah. I wasn't there. From that, it had already passed. Yeah.
Was there anybody left over from those days?
Oh yeah, right there on B. There was a lot of a lot of people have been validated for a long time sitting back there.
Would they tell you guys, hey, this was fucked up
Yeah.
what they had us doing?
Oh yeah, right there in Corcoran. Regardless, you had to always stay suited and booted because it was known to crack doors. You know.
Fucking crazy, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was known for that. I got to 8 yard first, and
Yeah.
believe me, you had to always be on your toes.
When you were personally at Corcoran SHU, were you getting information that the brothers in the Bay wanted the dudes from Corcoran to report up to the Bay?
Yeah, yeah. Like when I was there, it was Artie's kingdom, you know,
Yeah.
and you know, Phillies are funny though, cause you hear about so and so wants Artie to go report up there, right?
Okay.
And Artie didn't. He did not care, right? He was Artie, and then they will come down on a medical thing, and they will blend right in with Artie like nothing, you know.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, yeah. Like I seen it firsthand. Like I got. Yeah, tell me.
We actually had many conversations, that guy and me.
Oh, I heard. I heard he's in Donovan, no, San Diego.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I was able to converse. So was it a big deal or it wasn't a big deal? Like, hey, they want these dudes to go up there. Those dudes are not going up there.
It it depends on which Billy it was, you know. But like Artie, he didn't care. You know, he had that Hugo, right?
Yeah.
Not too many people stuck up to Artie. You know,
Why do you think that is?
again going back to his reach, he had a lot of people under him.
But did Tigre have
He
a
had
lot
a
of
lot
people
of
under
yards
him?
that were yes and no. He had a lot of Billies with him.
Okay.
You know, at the end when the thing happened with Tigre and Chato, which was basically it for Tigre, right? Um, there was a lot of weenies, a lot of Pilis that were supporting Tigre that said, oh, I don't know what he's talking about, you know? But at one point, he had a lot of Pilis that were with what he wanted.
You know, we were talking about the other one earlier. When one of those when one of them falls from good graces, right? Did you ever observe, and we talked about this earlier, when the whole crew gets knocked down?
Oh yeah, especially when somebody that's a snake, right? That was for example, Artie, a yard, and he seen another Pilis worker got there. Right away, he'll tell his worker, hey, go ahead and whack him and get him off the yard. Don't let him pick up ground. To Artie, basically, from Salinas down, it was his, in his
Yeah.
head, right? So when he fell, everybody fell with him.
What did that look like on the yards?
Well, basically, everybody that was loyal to Artie, they were getting whacked, you know?
But what did it look like? Did it look like, hey, you two, you get that guy. You two, you get that guy. Or is it like, hey, back to back to back, or all at once?
It was back to back to back, but it was mostly done under the fear fake, right? For example, this yard, you have people loyal to Artie, you go out there, you put some steel in them, and then next thing you know, all the vatos that were loyal to Artie, they know why, and they're going to check in.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's a fucking trip, dude. Because yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
During
it's
this
crazy.
time,
I heard Art.
go ahead.
I heard Artie's walking around the yard holding hands with his female.
Nah, I'll be honest. That's not true. I'll be honest. Because I don't
Oh,
know
okay,
if
okay.
I don't know if I heard that from your episode or I heard it on the internet. That's not true. 100% not true.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, yeah.
nah. And not that I'm back defending this guy, but I mean, I would say if that was the truth.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
Yeah, yeah. I heard it from somebody, but
nah, dude. Nah, it's not even that. There's not even that many on that yard. Nah.
okay,
You
okay.
got Suge Knight on that yard.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no, yeah. No, that rumor is disapproved. But fuck, dude, I was gonna tell you something.
Okay, okay.
During this time, when camaradas are getting hit because their member fell, are they like confused? Like, do they have a deer in the headlights look? Like, hey, why is this shit happening to me? Or do they kind of know what time it is?
Everybody knows what time it is, because as a camarada, you know what you were doing.
Right.
For example, moving on camaradas, so you knew. But again, that we have that mentality, right? Oh, that ain't gonna happen to this Pili, and you lose track, and you stay loyal to one individual, and it's gonna bite you in the butt. That's what we were talking about earlier, and that's what happened time and time again. And if it wasn't like that, then that one Pili that took that dive, he was gonna make sure he took the camaradas that were under him with him
How?
by telling.
Oh shit.
Yeah, they're big old pajaritos.
Damn, dude. Wow. Um, when did you go? When did you touch down to the bay?
At the end of 2004, I got validated in 2003. I hit B yard, three right. I was there for a little bit, and I caught a holly for Artie, and then I went to the bay.
Hey, what did your validation process look like to you? What did they have on you? Tattoos, letters?
The first, yeah, the first time around, it was a drawing for Toro
Okay.
that I signed on, and there was some vato that I had. I stayed in the shadows.
Yeah.
So I had a vato from Tortilla, but helping me with A section, and he was turning in all the wheelers to the COs, to the squad.
Why?
They had that. Because it is what it is. That's how it is.
So they had the wheelers, the drawing, and something else?
Yeah, the tattoos. They say I had tattoos that at that time they were only earned.
Now I was new during this time in the department. So I didn't know too much about the validation process until you start learning and seeing what's what, who's who. How did you guys feel about getting officially validated?
Uh, I didn't even think about it.
Damn,
It just
bro.
came with the responsibility.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just came with the territory.
But did it help your cause or hurt your cause in prison?
Well, nobody wants to be stuck, especially if you're a lifer, right?
Right.
But at the end of the day, you put yourself in this position.
Right.
They give you responsibilities, and you know what the responsibilities come with.
Yeah.
But that first one, I beat it.
You beat the first validation?
Yeah, I beat the first validation. Yeah, I appealed it. They
Yeah.
put me up for Salinas Valley and Folsom, and then I went to Salinas Valley, but we landed. We were coming from the SHU, so they put us in the hole, right?
Right.
And then in the hole, just things unfolded, and back to the SHU. I went back to Corcoran.
What do you mean? When you say things unfolded, right? Was it like internal or something?
Yeah, it was roof and different peelies. Again, it was a time of power struggle, right?
Yeah.
I was a lifer. You see, at this time, a sureño don't even have to be requested. Basically, you're a sureño, you step up to the plate.
Right.
Fulanito Sutanito has to bounce. Vámonos.
Right.
You know, he has to go, period. And that's kind of what happened. And I caught another shoe term. I came back to Corcoran, and then I hit me with the real packet.
Hey, back then it's because you had the ad seg big yards, right? Because the dog kennels weren't
Yeah.
invented yet.
No, it was the group yard, the concrete yard.
So it would get fucking violent in those group yards.
Yeah. Oh yeah, almost every yard somebody had to go, you know?
What about the gunner? Were you ever around where they had the water cannon?
So, oh wow, them things hurt. I got hit into Atchipy where they had that gun right in the corner, right? You talking about that?
The
That
water
5
cannon.
gallon?
The water cannon. It's like a fire hose shoots out pressure and you can mix pepper spray in it.
Yeah, warm water, right?
Well, it's pepper spray, yeah. Hot water.
Yeah, they had that in Tehachapi, and they hit you with them things. Is ooh wee, you know. I'd rather got hit with the block gun.
Have you been hit with a block gun?
Oh yeah, Tehachapi, Corcoran. Yeah.
Did the pain hurt enough to stop your actions?
No, no, you don't feel it till you cool down.
Okay. The adrenaline.
Especially like for example that time in Tehachapi, it was kind of me and a camarada with two camaradas due to an issue with Winnie Enriquez and you know,
Yeah.
basically we went at it with fierros on the yard and we weren't supposed to stop.
Did
So
they
we got
ever
hit with the block gun.
did they shoot the mini?
No, when the beanie got pulled out, is when a few camaradas said, "Hey, ya estuvo," you know.
Have you ever been involved in incidents where the mini was used?
Oh yeah, yeah, right there in Corcoran, as a matter of fact. Yeah, with a paisano that they try to minimize him per se, right there in Fort Lev, A yard, and you know I was the one that sent out that I'm appeal and it came back to go ahead and give the
Fuck.
paisano green light to go ahead and hit the camaradas, and he did, and but the tower they got him, you know.
Did they shoot him?
Oh yeah, they shot him. They shot him a couple times.
Did they shoot the paisa or was it a sureño?
Oh yeah, they shot the paisa because the sureños they were talking down to the paisa, but the paisa when he went out there, the other two just bucked up, you know, curled
Yeah.
up and threw themselves on the floor.
Mm.
Yeah, and the paisa was just going at it. They hit him once, and he was a big boy. He didn't fade him. They hit him a second time, and he went down.
When you were doing your thing and kicking back on the yard watching, did you pay attention to how the other races got down with their violence? For instance, how the paisas got down, how the whites got down?
I mean, you always have to be paying attention
Yeah,
to how they do things, how they function, and but for example, when it was the Hatchet P. Corcoran, even though they were group yards, we never seen them. Well, paisas, yeah, you know.
yeah.
But at this time, it was nothing but camaradas that went out and paisas to the same yard. They didn't even allow us to program with with woods, you know.
Why? You guys were at war?
I don't know. They had it set up like that. Excuse me.
I said, were you guys at war?
I didn't hear you. Excuse me.
No, I had said, did they separate you guys because were you guys at war?
No,
No?
no. It was basically I don't know why it was like that since Ironwood, we went out, came out to one yard, and then it was a little catwalk, and then the other yard was the woods. Yeah, but we didn't come out physically on the same yard.
Okay. How many years total did you spend in Pelican Bay SHU?
And the 2004 till 2015 in the beginning, so about 11 years.
Wait, what area were you at? Because I think there's what, C yard or D yard, the short corridor.
Yeah, I landed on D yard, and then during time I moved to C yard. It was all depending where the seals threw you at, you know. Especially if you were just a camarada. I mean, they respected the pilis, but camaradas were just getting moved around, you know.
How were the COs at Pelican Bay?
They're pretty respectful, you know. I got nothing to say about them up there. You mind your business. You allow them to do their thing. You do your thing, and you didn't have problems, you know. Of course, you know they were out to get you. You always had to do things around them, but other than that, when it came to small stuff, they were right, you know.
Did you have a celly?
No, I went up there for a murder.
You went up to Pelican Bay for a murder?
Were suspected for a murder, and I was single cell, walk alone.
God
Yeah, but
damn, dude. Wow. Wow. So now you're in the SHU, Pelican Bay. You made it,
yeah.
right? Do you do anything different than you had done in your time previously? Meaning, rolling up your mattress, putting up your artwork, or was it the same thing you had done every other place you landed?
Yeah, I remember I've been in the SHU since 2001.
Correct.
I had already close to 4 years already in the SHU, so I knew how the SHU program worked.
Okay.
It was exactly the same on every yard, on every SHU. The only difference is I didn't have a celly.
Is it, in prison, is it better to have a celly or not have a celly?
Oh, definitely, you know, you want a celly because, I mean, it could work both ways. I mean, you got a
Yeah.
celly that's just somebody you don't get along with, then, but you got a good celly, then, you know, better than to be alone.
True. What did your days look like, man? I'm talking about from the time you woke up, what time did you wake up, and what did you do?
My program in the Bay, you mean?
Yeah.
I had my programming every day. You know, at this time, I had a lot of responsibility just from different angles. You know, and so I woke up, I made some chanate, drink some warm water, hit rutina before breakfast. Then right after breakfast, got to answering Wheelas, got them out to where they needed to go out. You know, the rutina again. And it was just, I had a program of all day, you know. But I stayed busy till the time I went to bed.
Now, you told me you were working under a brother throughout this whole time. Now you're in the same place as he is. Do you see him?
No, I wasn't in the same part as T, but we were able to reach to each other a lot faster than what it was down, you know.
How much
But at
faster?
this time, like literally within the same day, you know.
All right.
Yeah. Again, Judas were cool up there, you know.
Yeah. But I would imagine your role, your specific role as a camarada would change, right? Because you're not on the
Definitely.
yard being, an authority figure. So what did your role change to?
Making feria. Making feria and help out with certain yards and different things on the streets, you know.
Okay.
But under different, you could say guidelines, right? Like, for example, when I went out to a jardín, of course, the main objective is to pick up soldados, to have
Okay.
money coming in for the pili, right?
Yeah.
But most of the time, they didn't want you to put yourself on the cross. And back there is to stay in people's mouth. You have to be able to bring something to the mesa, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
During this specific time, dude, when you're in the bay, in the SHU, bro, pretty much on all the fucking yards and all the prisons was like a war zone, dude. Blacks, Mexicans fighting,
Yeah.
whites, Mexicans, whites, blacks. How do you view what I'm telling you?
Yeah.
What's your opinion on that? That when you guys were up there, all hell was breaking loose on the yards.
Yeah, it's it was, you could say, that little fold down, right? What they use kind of to get back out to the líneas. But it's just game banging, you know? It was just game. I look at it like that, you know, it's just game banging. You know, you can't run another racist program, period.
True.
They can't run yours, you know?
True.
Things happen except for the riots that I called, it was either because the wood rushed the camarada rushed the wood, we had to go up, or the blacks rushed the camarada, so we had to, you know, lift in arms.
Hey, real quick, because you said you called that, right? Was there certain things in place where, hey, I don't need to wait for somebody's order? Motherfucker, they hit one of us, we're all gonna fucking smash right now. Was it more like that?
Yeah, I mean, look, again, it goes back to you knowing how to resolve things for a feeling. If you can't resolve them on the spot, then basically, you know, they don't want you around them at this time.
Okay.
So I'm gonna give you an example. There was a dumbass from 12th Street on A Yard. We're in the main kitchen, and that fool thought he was a rapper, right? I don't know the get downs in Pomona, but basically he thought he was a blood. He was a homie, but he would always rap and blood this, blood that, right? Which when it was all palabras, you know, you couldn't really say nothing. But then one day he went back there with a big old tattoo that said 187 Crip. So of course, you know, the Crips looked for their opportunity and they rushed him.
Okay.
So when they touched him, our gente at this time was untouchable. You touch our gente, we're going to sweep your whole race, period. Viejitos, inválidos, you're bouncing.
Absolutely.
So if I would have got a T and tell them, hey, they did this, what should I do? I would have got them with holoteras given to me for not being able to resolve the issue.
Yeah.
Instead, you know, they shot me back to the yard on my way from Central Kitchen back to the block. A lot of people ask me, hey, ¿como aquí qué? You know, a todos. todos los africanos, and it just went up.
When?
No butts or ifs, you know.
Shortly
When I was
afterwards?
in Ironwood,
No, but shortly afterwards, you guys kicked it
I,
off?
that that same time, you know, the Huda slipped and they didn't slam us.
Fuck.
They didn't slam us, so basically they're bringing from that same incident. They're bringing me because we couldn't get to where they were hitting Negro. So they basically took the camaradas and everybody from main kitchen back to the yard.
Okay.
So for me walking from the main kitchen back through the yard, there was a lot of camaradas, of course, laying down because of the alarm, right?
Okay.
And those that knew me basically yelled at me, que you, and I told them, you know, no buts or ifs, sobre ellos. And the Judas, they recalled the whole yard, but they let us out within the next half hour. And by that time, it just allowed everybody to strap up.
Did you guys catch the blacks off guard?
No, they knew.
They knew?
They knew, you know. Yeah. I mean, it was pretty even on the yard, and
Yeah.
it went both ways, you know.
Let me
They
ask you
went
this.
both ways.
Let me ask you this, man, because I also see things change over time. I remember back then, dude, it would be, let's say a black hits a Mexican, then the Mexicans are gonna go at it. Then they would go back and fucking forth like 3 times, 4 times, right? Did you guys have a set amount of numbers of how many times, or it wasn't until, all right, we've had enough?
No, no, it was, I'll be sincere, it was till they called it.
Till they called it.
Us, it was basically boot ups, yeah, boot up, suit up till something gets fixed. And we ain't breaking it down. Every time we come out, vámonos. Yeah, so basically, they had to call it, you know.
Yeah. How did you view violence back then, man? Did you look at it as an inconvenience or a necessary evil?
A necessary evil, you know. It was just, it is where you're at, you know. That's the only way to, at this time, to prove to make our point get across, you know, which was our gente was untouchable. You touch one of mine, we're gonna touch your whole gente.
So I'm going to tell you this, and you just let me know what your opinion is. During this time that you're talking about, I remember as a CO watching the different races, how they got down, how they carried themselves, very, disciplined. There was not much disrespect between different races. Reason being is, because we just talked about it, they would fucking kill each other. But ever since the race, real quick, but ever since the race riots stopped, when I was a lieutenant, the things I would see on the yard were, oh, nah, man. These people are doing too much now because that threat of violence is no longer there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they don't want to go back to the SHU, period, you know?
Correct.
But when they were already back there, it was go to war, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
now it's, for example, and it goes in every direction, right? Because back in this time, it went for the brothers too, you know? You touch one of them, they're going to come out and hoop bang on everybody, you know?
Yeah.
Whites, even the others, you know? And now it's like, you know, it's allowed. It's allowed for other races to touch everybody, really.
It's a different time. It's kind of weird from seeing, from the past to present times.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's something else now, you know.
When you were in an indeterminate SHU in Pelican Bay, did you ever think you were ever getting out of the bay?
No, no. I mean, right when I went to the feds, there was them hunger strikes and all that little movement. So we were pushing for it, but it was still nothing set in concrete, right?
How did you go to the feds? What was it that caused you to go to the feds?
They basically overturned my case under a technicality.
But how did they turn over your case? Was there new evidence introduced? And how did that equate to you going to the feds?
Because basically, when I got sentenced by Hardcastle, and he sentenced me with real specific things on my sentencing. I wasn't supposed to hit CDC till I served a juvenile life sentence.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, and I never went back to YA.
Wow.
I never touched YA. But since me personally, I didn't care about none of that, right?
Right.
I caught a pegada on a bulldog in Corcoran before I got that big case.
Okay.
And one day I went out to court, and basically the lawyer comes and tells me like, hey, they're offering you another strike in 3 years. I was a lifer, so I told him, nah, hell no. Get them for everything they have to spend, you know?
Yeah.
Prolong this. I like coming out here.
Yeah.
And then shortly after that, he visited me, and he's the one that caught onto it. And he told me, look, they violated your sentencing. I could take you back to court, and we might be able to get some action. So I took the deal, and things unfolded after that, you know?
Wait a minute, dude. You were 17 years old at the time you committed your offense. And they hit you with a double life, and they hit you with a double life sentence. And what you're telling me is you were supposed to stay in YA for a youth life, which is what, 25 years old, 26?
Yeah.
And then what?
Till 25.
And then you were supposed to get out?
Then I was supposed to go to CDC and start my life sentence as an adult. I got sentenced to one life sentence as a juvenile,
Oh.
and then to serve a life sentence as an adult.
Okay.
But they threw me straight to San Quentin to CDC.
And since you didn't say
And
nothing,
basically, when I went back, I didn't know. I didn't really care to appeal or none of that, you know?
yeah.
So basically, when I went back to court, I went back to the judge, our castle, and he was something else, you know? And he said, all right, well, since it went down like this and they went against what I sentenced you to, you are going to serve 2 life sentences, but both, they're going to run concurrent or, no, yeah, concurrent as juveniles. So I was supposed to get out when I was 25. But, you know, I ended up, by that time I had that pegada with the bulldog, and I got some other things, which I did extra. But when I got maxed out from that, I was supposed to get out in Cali. But then they came under some okey doke stuff, and they shot me to the feds.
What the fuck, dude?
Yeah, at this time they were really doing it like some BS stuff. They shot you to the feds, string you along till the feds finish building a case against you to
Let me ask you
sit
this.
you in the feds for life.
So right now, currently, the way things work is let's say I'm a brother and I got federally indicted on a RICO. Okay, what's going to happen is the U.S. Marshals are going to come pick me up in the middle of the night. They're going to transport me to a county jail, and I'm going to sit in that county jail for a long time right now because the feds are not taking these guys for some reason. What was the process for you like?
They shot me straight to Eloy.
Illinois?
Basically, no, to Arizona, to the
Okay.
prison Eloy.
Yeah.
And basically, what happened was I was supposed to parole. I put in well, Camarada helped me put in some forms where if I had any type of holes, they were supposed to notify me, and I didn't have nothing. I was supposed to get out March, March of 2019. That was my day, right? I was maxed out. And basically, they came 4 months before him in the middle of the night and they tell me, hey, Alvarez, pack yourself up, you're paroling. So I was like, nah, hell no, check. I was maxed out.
Yeah.
And then later he came back, he rocked my door and goes, yeah, it's you. So I left everything behind. I was happy in R&R. Next thing you know, you have the Federicos come and they take me straight to Eloy.
How? Plane? Bus? Van?
Yeah, they took me from a van to Fresno, and then from Fresno they flew me out.
Oh, Con Air, bro.
Yeah,
How did you feel? You got dudes with guns? Are you fucking waist chain?
yeah. I was like, man, what's this? I didn't know what it was, and they were at first they were saying that they had to look into my immigration, right? Which was BS. I was born in California,
Okay.
and when I got to Eloy, there was literally 10, 12 camaradas that were back there for that. They had 2, 3 years already sitting back there for the same thing. And they were born in LA,
Damn, dude, that's so weird.
but they were eventually they were getting hit by a RICO case and picking up live back there.
Was that your first time ever being on an airplane?
No, when I
No?
was a kid, I used to go back from here, Culiacan, to Frisco.
Okay. When you got to Eloy, were you in a lockup in a ad seg or were you in a mainline?
Well, when I got there, they put me in a tank with everybody, and it was something different, after so long. But the squad, they snatched me up from the pot. Arizona squad came and basically told me that there was a current war on the mainline with the Árabes, so they didn't want me on the linea, so they took me to Willis to the hole. They slammed me, and then from there it's going to be a long process. So we're going to shoot you to a better suited prison. Then they shot me to Pennsylvania, and I sat there for about close to 2 years.
In the hole?
And then they shot me. No, no, no. When I got to Pennsylvania, they shot me to the linea. I was on the main line.
Somebody like you, do you come with some jugo? Do you come with some juice? Are you a somebody?
No,
No?
no. I mean, if when it comes to weight, right? If you have that reach to tap into things, they're gonna hear who you are,
Okay.
regardless.
Yeah.
But not like you expect. Just
Okay.
being sincere.
Right.
Basically, you could use this individual,
Okay.
right? So when I got there, they have heard who I was, especially because in some sense, there's a Pili from their own city, whatever, that I somehow helped or did something with.
Right.
But again, what you do in one place has no meaning in the next. When you get there is what you can bring to the table there.
That is fucking crazy because think about all the work that you put in fucking decades to get there, and you're telling me and the public, hey, none of that mattered. You're here now.
None of that matters. Not absolutely nothing.
That's wild,
You
dude.
know? A lot of people think that, for example, me on the streets, 24/7, all I wanted to do was I had a lot of hate against norteños, so it was represent the neighborhood, put in work. Went in as a lifer. That didn't mean nothing once I hit CDC.
True.
You're alive, bro? Okay, get in line.
Yeah,
Bro, start programming.
you're just another killer.
Yeah. I mean, it helps when a Pili picks up care and respect for you. For
Okay.
example, with Raul.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you can run across that Pili that says, I don't give a F about Raul.
Correct.
You know?
Correct.
So you start from scratch.
What was the program like in Pennsylvania compared to California?
Oh, different. 100% different. For example, there was many more different cars. You know, there was at this time I lived what it was being with amongst a few Pilis and their little crews under them, you know, and what it looked like to be on the yard with them. And it was different from every angle.
Did you eventually parole from the feds?
Yeah, from there, they shot me to Florence, Arizona.
Damn.
And then I was there for a little bit. And then from there, they shot me back to Eloy. And basically, they granted me parole. And I paroled right there in Eloy. But by that time, right there, I got real close with Sana. And I made some promises to come out here, you know, and open up pipelines with the Pilis out here.
Very, very, very interesting. And you reminded me of the episodes on evil you posted also.
Yeah.
So
I don't even touch.
no, that's fine. That's fine. What we're I just want your opinion on some of these things, right? Because some of these things happen when you left the California Department of Corrections, right? I just want to hear your feedback on what you think of this. There was two camaradas, maybe from Monrovia, right, that touched an old man. They got deemed no
Yeah, I
good.
know.
What do you make of something like that from your experience?
It's common sense. It's just common sense, you know. For example, there's certain guidelines you have to follow. Again, I got blessed with Raul there. Because when I picked up that case in Corcoran,
Yeah,
that in reality I got away with it, right?
right.
It was my celly was a made member. But basically, I don't want to say no, but I knew what was going to happen, right?
Yeah,
I just knew it. So I leaned on Raul and I asked him, hey, look, you know I can't say no. But if I do it, then you know what's going to come. And he told me, like, do it this, and that, back your play up. Make
okay.
sure you get the approval. You get the approval at least by 8 individuals there.
Damn.
And I did, you know, I had something in the hoop when this happened that had all their signatures backing up this call. And don't get me wrong, when I got up there to the bay, I was just waiting to see when I was gonna get what was coming to me, you know? I always had that fear in my head, but it was part of, you know, I stepped up, went what it went. But I started tapping into Feria, and then little by little it started being minimized, you know? But again, I was in the SHU. These
Right.
individuals were on the linea.
Correct.
You know, they didn't have time for none of that. They jumped the gun. They thought they could actually earn something there, which it wasn't going to happen.
Correct. Now, what if I told
Yeah.
you, since we're on the same subject, that maybe another brother got hit over sticking up for one of those guys from Monrovia?
they used that,
Correct.
they used that. I was I was up there in the bay when Pot Boy he was a bully with his own brothers,
Okay.
and not only that, but he put harpy steel over his carnales,
Okay.
and they had that on him, overstepping boundaries, always. For example, in this case, it was a fact what was coming to the camaradas, but he felt he had that who to step in for him.
Yeah.
So, he had a big territory. Greed. I want that came into effect too.
No, we definitely see things the same. We definitely see things the same, and that's why I asked you. Fuck, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, these were some of the questions, right? And I didn't want to do. Still, kind of, I just got to be cautious when I talk about shit like this.
Yeah, yeah, I understand. Yeah, that's why I don't know if you noticed, I don't collab with nobody.
Yeah,
I respect what you speak about, how you speak about it, and but for the same reason, I don't have nothing I could literally have any type of interest with the MA.
I hear you.
But everything I speak, everything I speak up, that's why I maintain to myself. Because if something was to ricochet, it should ricochet on me, right?
I'll ask you a good question. A good question that maybe the crowd, maybe the public wants to know. How dangerous is it to speak against organizations on YouTube?
If you're in the states,
Correct.
dangerous. Just being, just being sincere, In the states, that's why you see a lot of people that speak out their neck move to different states, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but definitely, there's a reach, because there's a lot that were like I was, They didn't hesitate and they want to earn a name, you
Hey, real
know?
quick, you know what I talk about on my channel, bro? I talk about like the administration has destroyed everything. What do you think, man? From you sitting back as a convict back in the day to the present, is the administration a problem within the California Department of Corrections?
Oh yeah, definitely. You have certain things that they straight set you up or they set up the situation. It just it's facts. It depends where you at, who's running it. What all factors, but definitely.
From
Now
some
more so than back then.
Correct. They've lost their fucking minds recently.
Yeah, I seen. Yeah.
Did you see a lot of good camaradas end up on the other side because of politics?
Though about Now I gotta say about 60-70% they're over there because of that,
Yeah.
Because uh, you had Pilis like Chino. Chino was grouchy at that time. He didn't want you to fish. He didn't want you to call out the cell. Any violation that would normally, go ahead and walk the domino or do this, nah, whack him, remove him.
God
I don't want him in the
damn.
program. No buts or ifs. Your discipline was going to be getting whacked and removed. Yeah,
When you send two shooters on one victim, is the goal to kill them?
it is. It should be. It should be.
Now that we're talking about the
Yeah.
murders, and I got 80 murders marked since the year 2022, man. And sometimes people don't agree with me. To you, does 80 murders in fucking 3 years seem a little bit excessive?
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah, but you gotta also understand that, of course, CDC is doing things wrong, period. But you also have this certain individuals that they don't give no wiggle room. You going and whacking somebody, not killing that person, could put you in the hat.
Yes.
You know. But right now, you're seeing a lot more of this cat should not be on this yard because of this cat, but CDC still puts him there. You're
Correct.
seeing a lot of mistakes.
Well, they're not mistakes, bro.
Hmm.
It's fucking on purpose.
Oh, yeah, and I can understand why they're doing it. They want things to be back, right?
I don't know what they want, man. They want complete chaos. Actually, I think they want to get rid of the SNY program.
Oh, that would be something to see.
We're seeing it. We're seeing it.
Yeah.
What advice do you have to young gangsters that have no idea the life that's ahead of them?
As you know, I'm not. I always say it in my channel. I'm not on here to spread poison, nor am I on here telling anybody, weenie out, go this, go tell. Not, I don't believe in that, right? If you're there, boot up, suit up, and program. But if you get to a certain stage in your neighborhood, love your neighborhood, but do things for your family. There's nothing inside, nothing. Again, nothing you do inside is gonna have ever no type of meaning. So, when I was out there was a time where I'm gonna speak about me. When I had the yard, if you had a date, I would never put you up to bat. It was just me, right?
Yeah.
It was always lifers. It was a lifer. You're a lifer. Someone has to get hit. You're gonna do it.
Yeah.
But now you're seeing it don't work like that. It's just not like that.
That's what I was going to tell you. I've
So
seen many
basically,
of times when guys that were not lifers caught life.
yeah, because there's a lot of people that rather have their butt buddy next door that's a lifer with them than someone that's minding his business and programming.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, that's what the message about. Maintain true to yourself and loyal to family, and at the same time, don't put yourself in that situation. There's nothing there on that myth that we get fed as kids, which is we have to go in and earn our points, earn our stripes with the right people. You're never gonna do that. You're just never gonna do that.
Does being in a gang make you a man?
No, but it comes with the territory how we grow up.
Yeah.
And I ain't speaking against that because I understand living in the gutter and
Correct.
having to go through that stage, right? It's just that mentality we get fed as kids that we have to go in, pay our respects, earn our stripes inside. That's a myth. You never do that. You'll never earn them.
Another juicy question. If you have a sureño on a yard, right, and he gets in trouble, right, but they just give him a
Mhm.
calentada. They just check him, right? Is that dude always gonna be not in the best of standings, even if he remains in GP?
As long as he's on the yard, yeah. But again, yard to yard is different.
Right.
You know, of course, there's certain things that are going to follow you
Oof.
always. But let's just say it's something minor, right? That you just get a couple coscorrones.
Yeah.
Then once you hit another yard, that individual, you just don't give an F about it. You
Right.
start doing things right, you maintain the line, you'll be good, you know? You lose a wheeler, you lose Hale, you unplease one of them, it's gonna always follow you, you know?
Those are severe. Those are severe infractions.
Oh yeah, definitely those are things that it's gonna bring on one at attention, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Cool, man. Well, we've been at this almost 2 hours, dude. And again, it was live, bro. So I kind of had to like freaking be strategic in questions. But I want to encourage everybody that's
Right.
watching to go to your channel, bro. Mislead Loyalty, Rob on YouTube. Go subscribe, dude. How long have you had your channel already, bro?
I believe a little bit less than a year here.
You're doing good. Your
I
views.
believe so. Yeah, I'll be honest, I'm blessed, with the people that's on there,
Yeah.
with me.
No,
And
I like your content.
that's the main reason why I started. Yeah, the main reason why I started it was for that, to pay my respects back to those that gave me time to help me spread the message.
Yeah. What's your future goal with YouTube? You plan on sticking with it for a longer time?
As long as God permits me or as long as my message makes sense.
For sure. That makes sense.
Yeah,
That's
at the
cool.
end of the day, at the end of the day, I'm only telling my story.
Right.
And then from then on, I'll eventually touch base with the people that been there with me, and it might be time to just clock out.
Yeah. One more juicy question. What do you think of drama on YouTube?
Oh, yeah, I try to stay away from that. That's why my respects. I never speak about another man's channel. I don't care. It's not why I'm on here.
No, I hear you. I hear you. I just wanted to hear your opinion, your side. Because I try to avoid that also. Because I don't want to get lose track.
Yeah. No, I mean, what you gonna gain from it?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Hell yeah, bro. Any last closing words you want to say, dude? Again, I want to thank you, bro. This was long overdue to me. So I never tapped into your comment section because like I was like, I don't know if this dude's like fucking, you know what I mean? I didn't know what your status was. I didn't know if you wanted me leaving comments and shit. But when I saw you started commenting, I was like, all right, hell yeah, what's up, dude?
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I stay away from certain individuals. But like for example, I watch your content, because to me it's something that I was around.
Yeah,
For example, yeah, we were always programming per se with COs, but we never knew the background.
correct.
We could guess all we want, but we didn't know. So I respect that you stay within your lane. There's
Have to.
certain individuals that they talk about their grandma taking down her panties and stuff.
Hold on, homie. Let me put this fucking sound effect. All right. That was good, dude. That was good. But all right. Everybody that's on this live, there's 332. Go over and check Rob's channel, Mislead Loyalty. Subscribe, show the dude some love, send some blessings. And again, man, you ever need anything, holler, dude. I want to thank you for coming on the show.
Nah, thank you, Hector, for having me, and I hope I made sense because I ain't too good at this.
It was fucking smooth, dude. Hey, Hey, and
All
and
right,
and
gracias,
those
gracias,
and those that understand, they understand, right? We didn't have to break it down for people that don't understand that talk.
yeah, definitely. That's one thing I could say I'm blessed with in the channel, that I got a lot of people that, to some extent, were there,
Yeah,
and with me saying less, they completely understand the surrounding behind it. You know.
facts. Cool. All right, man. You have a good night, Rob. Take it easy, dude. Talk to you later.
Hey, thank you, and whatever, do check in or tap in. You know.
Absolutely, bro.
Gracias,
Likewise.
Hector.
All right, man. Later.
All right.